Hello everyone, welcome back to AV Chess Lab. Today we're going to be starting something special here on chess.com, which is going to be a rapid chess rise to the rating of 2000. So let's just get started and let's hit play here and see who we get matched up against. Smooth Fox 1, rated 457. And of course he's higher rated than us. We are 400 at the time. A mistake I should not make again, which is to put when you set up your account on chess.com that you have never played chess before. For some reason, I missed that setting and I ended up with this incredible rating of 400. So here on the board we have e4, c5, a Sicilian, and our opponent decides to go for the Alapin variation of the Sicilian defense with, for the white pieces of course, with the move c3. And if I remember correctly, we can strike in the center right away with the move to d5, taking advantage of the fact that when he captures and we capture back, knight to c3 is no longer possible, so our queen doesn't have to move again. So he took the pawn, very logical. I think that is the main line of this variation. Queen takes. And from here, they do play moves like d4, knight to f3. So yeah, so our opponent decided to go for d4, putting pressure on my pawn on c5 at the moment. He also wants us to take so that he can recapture with the c pawn and his knight can come out to that square. And to be honest, I have not looked at this position in quite a long time. For starters, because I just started playing the Sicilian myself. And with the white pieces, I don't play this line. So I have seen it in other games, but I don't remember the exact continuation. I mean, I have some ideas. Knight c6, knight f6, even e6, maybe even e5. But I'm confused. I'm a little bit confused, and our time is running, so we have to make a move. And I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna go for, excuse me, knight to c6. And I'm gonna ask my opponent what he plans to do. What are his intentions? And of course, I have no idea what's gonna happen. And just as I was saying that, my opponent confuses me even more with the move to b4. I am so confused. So we can capture on both sides. So how should we do that? Hmm. I don't like that. If I take here, then he can have some b5 intermediate move. What I really want to do is, for example, I want to have this position where pawn takes, queen takes, and knight takes. And I'm just up a pawn. But notice that if I capture here first, he can simply play pawn here. And then I do still like my position quite a lot after that. But I don't get what I want. But if I capture here first, after he captures, then we can capture on d4 like I originally intended. So I'm going to, I believe, go for that and ask my opponent if his pawn sacrifice was good enough. I don't think it was. I think he's simply going to be down a pawn. And we can, after that, just continue to develop our pieces and continue to put pressure. And here he plays the move a3. And that just signals to me that he did not evaluate what would happen after he played the move to b4 to its completion. Okay, so if we take, we're going to allow some bishop takes, which I do not want to do. But if I take here, even if he gets this move with tempo on my queen, we're simply going to capture yet another free pawn. So there's no reason not to go for this move. And we're going to pre-move knight takes d4. Our king is slightly exposed, I guess, is the right way to say it. But nothing to be concerned about. Okay, so we have some check, after which he can go bishop e3. At the same time, with this check here, we are protecting the square on c7, which this knight would love to go to. And after he covers up, we can actually play knight to f6. So check. Let's see. So we give a check here. He covers with his bishop. We go knight to f6. After, he can go knight to f3, but we simply just capture his knight. Now, my opponent would love for me to take his rook, and that would be a huge mistake, because then he would have this knight to c7, winning the game and laughing in my face, which I do not want to do. I do not want anybody laughing at me. So I think I'm going to go for this check here. If he covers with the knight, then taking the rook, it's an option. And whatever he decides to protect his king with, and I thought bishop e3 was the correct continuation, we're simply going to attack his knight. So obviously this check doesn't work. And he must have been thinking, oh, I got him, checkmate. But my queen protects that square, and that's the reason we played the queen to e5 check in the first place. So I'm not too worried about the fact that my time is 4:31 and my opponent has 7:53, since we're up plenty of material. And this shouldn't be too hard of a conversion. We're going to continue here. We're playing this pawn to e5 and bring this bishop out and castle. After which, it is game over. Okay. Let's play queen there. I don't see any reason not to. Why not to? My opponent has decided everything that he did in this game was focused around the queen side. Notice how there's no pieces left on the queen side, which is very strange. Okay, we're gonna capture this pawn and then give a check here. I'm guessing knight to e2 is the move. And then we can simply take this pawn now. There's no longer a queen to a4 check, because my queen in that square would simply capture his queen. So he goes for this instead, but here we're gonna start harassing him with bishop check. And after king to f2, we're gonna throw in another check on c5. Since that will force him to have to go back to the original square, and then we can simply just castle. He can also go king to d1, it's an option. And then we'll castle if he does that. So we're completely winning, but we must be careful. This is chess, and anything can happen. Mouse slips can happen, internet issues could happen. So we have to finish this game as quickly as possible so we could move on. So he decided yet to go for king to d1. So his king is very exposed, and our rooks are gonna come in now and start creating very dangerous threats to his king. So the idea is to play 2 games every day. These are obviously going to be games 1 and 2 of this road to 2000 playing rapid chess. And I'm going to do it at 10 minutes. And 10 minutes, it's a very comfortable, nice time control. In a perfect world, I would love to play 15 minutes just so that I can have that extra added time to think and understand the moves, of course. But I think 10 minutes it's fine. It's not fast where I'm just making lots of quick moves and making lots of mistakes. And it's slow enough that it allows me to, in case that I need the extra time, to pause and think and come up with the best moves in the position. And already here, it is starting to look like our opponent is going to fall for some checkmate of some kind. So notice how all my pieces are attacking his king, and I am not at all calculating any moves at the moment, since everything that he does is probably going to lead to a quick end of the game. So if he goes king to b3, we're simply going to play queen b4, and if the king goes back to c2, get his queen. At which point he should probably resign so we can move on to our second game. And to continue what I was saying earlier, the idea is just to see how quickly we can get to 2000. And at the beginning, we're gonna move up a lot of points since our account is brand new. So what is the quickest way to checkmate here? Okay, let's just go for this. Let's give a quick check. And after king to a2, we're gonna go bishop to e6. Check. His only move is to go bishop to c4. And then we're simply going to take it with our bishop and end the game. So a very good start to this game. As you can see, we gained a total of 206 points. So let's look at the game report and see if we could have improved our play anywhere. And that's one of the great features that chess.com has at the moment, that you can review your games after you finish them, and it's something that every player should be doing. You should try to learn something from every game you play. So as you can see, our accuracy was 96.8, not too bad. And we did make we made 2 inaccuracies, but no mistakes and no blunders. Inaccuracies are not necessarily bad moves. And remember, we're not computers, so we're not expected to play perfect chess. But we are at some point expected not to make mistakes and blunders. I'm okay with making inaccurate moves. So let's take a quick look at the analysis, see where we went wrong. So normal stuff. These are open book moves. Takes, and up to this point, we're still making book moves. But here, our opponent goes for this b4, which we thought was a big blunder, and the computer agrees with the evaluation. And so the best move was to continue knight to f3, which is the main line. After which I believe we play, I think, bishop to g4. And I think they continue with bishop to e2. And we simply just continue to put pressure with knight to f6 and so on. But okay, that would be, the game would have continued in a completely different line, I guess, if we go that way. So c takes b4, which was the best move in the position, and I thought it was. This is what I wanted to originally play, but this wouldn't be as good because of this move. So playing c takes b4 was the right way to go. And here he surprised us again with another inaccurate move, a3, which allowed us to take another free pawn. So now we're going to be up 2 full pawns. And it's saying that 95 is a full blunder, and that we didn't take, and that he just didn't take advantage of the fact that he's down 2 pawns and he shouldn't be trading pieces like he is here. So okay, we play queen e5, which the computer says was an inaccurate move. And I don't think I agree with the analysis that it is an inaccurate move. It does say we're up now 4.5 pawns. And after queen to e5, it's saying that we're only up 3.5 pawns. So we did give away a little bit of the advantage, but the fact that we're still up 3.5 is not such a big deal. And keeping the queens on the board will give us extra chances and extra ideas to checkmate the king like we did in the game. But it's saying that the best move was to trade queens and then go for some king to d8, which I'm not even sure why. Okay. Oh, okay, I understand. It was queen takes queen. Okay, I see what the computer is saying. So it's saying that this is the best continuation, because after bishop g4, when he covers with the bishop, we can castle, and when he takes here, we can simply take his knight with check, and our king is safer. His pawn structure here, as you can see, is damaged, and we'll be able to just develop our pieces with knight to f6, e5, and bishop to c5. So, all right. Not to worry. So after bishop to e3, it's saying that knight to f6 was a mistake. And again, I don't agree with this assessment, since I'm just trying to trade pieces since I'm down. I mean, I'm up 2 pawns. But okay, after this, then the game is just completely over. So we're gonna stop our analysis after queen takes e7, since we're up 2 pieces. I mean, up a piece and 2 pawns. So all right, let's just go and play yet another game. So let's move on to our next 10-minute game. So let's click on play and see who we get. And we have Mindless Boy 615 from Italy. All right, so I like to play pawn to e4, which gives me some central control and allows for me to move my bishop out somewhere. But since our opponent decided to play this variation, which is called the French defense, playing bishop to c4 now makes no sense, because he can simply play d5, and after we take, he takes, and we will have to move our bishop from the c4 square. So instead of that, I'm going to take this opportunity to put another pawn on the center. And notice how we have control of all these squares now. So why not? Every time they give you this opportunity to put 2 pawns in the center, take it. So okay, he does something very useful, which is to bring out a minor piece, which is called development, while also attacking my pawn on e4. So I have to do something about that. And I will do something similar to what he did. I'm going to develop a piece and protect my pawn at the same time. So he goes for c6, and I already feel like this is an inaccurate move. He should have continued in the spirit of the position to put pressure on this pawn. And he can do that in two ways. He could have gone bishop to b4, and notice that this creates a pin on my king. So if I don't take care of that, he can simply just capture my pawn. Or he could have gone for the direct d5 and asking me to make a decision whether I want to take there, after which he can simply take with the e pawn and he would have a very comfortable position. Or what I was going to play was e5 and just take the space that my opponent is giving us. But okay, he played something completely different with c6. So what to do? I feel that he really wants to play d5 and just put more pressure on that square. But as I already mentioned, as soon as he does that, I'm just going to play e5. And since I'm going to play e5, I'm going to play this move, f4, which is going to support my pawn advancement to the square on e5. So, Mr. Mindless Boy, if you want to play d5, by all means go for it. I am not afraid of that move. And notice that this bishop on c8 is going to have quite a deal of difficulty in order to get developed, which is one of the reasons I don't like the French defense. It's the development of this bishop. And most of the times, white's play revolves around that's the whole idea. So he plays b5. So what I'm guessing is that he wants to play b4, and after I move my knight, take on e4. And that's not going to work, because we simply saw that that's what he wanted to play. So instead, we're just going to develop a piece, protect our pawn on e4. So now if he does go b4, we simply move our knight, and he no longer has that idea. In chess, one of the main things that we have to do is to neutralize our opponent's pretty much way of play. So notice what my opponent is doing. We talked about how this bishop was bad. He's caging in his bishop behind his own pawns. So it's gonna be even more difficult for him to take it out. But as I was saying, we need to neutralize the moves that our opponent is making. That's one of the things that we do in chess, while at the same time trying to come up with our own play. So here, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't continue to develop, bringing yet another piece out, and keep the control in the center that we have. This is a very, very nice position that we have acquired. But let's see how we can take advantage of it. So he finally does break with the move to d5. And I'm just going to play my e5 move, which we had discussed earlier. Notice now that this knight doesn't have a lot of squares, and he does play knight to d7, a retreating move. But the most important thing about this pawn advancement that we have is that notice how this bishop is going to have in the long run some very attacking power against his pawn on h7, which is one of the things that I really like about playing this advancement with e5. And there are some things, there's a tactical motive called the Greek sacrifice, but he would have to castle for us to be able to employ it. Now, I think this is a very important moment and that we should take and think. So my opponent's position looks absolutely horrible, and he's going to try to somehow develop his pieces. So next, my opponent would like to play, for example, this pawn to c5, threatening to go to c4. So I would have to capture, and then he would capture with his bishop and develop. And not to mention, the 6 square is no longer occupied, so then he can later then develop his knight there. And his bishop will come to b7. So his position is going to start looking a lot better than it is right now. So because of that, I need to have a plan for what I'm going to do if my opponent decides to go c5. So I think I want to move this knight out of here. The question is, do I want to do it? And I really have no clue. So let's see. I feel like I'm taking way too much time, but I think it is necessary. Okay, so I have an idea. I have a plan. I'm gonna put my knight here. I'm thinking he's going to castle kingside because he's already played all these pawn moves on the queen side. And castling to that side, I don't think is going to be a good idea for him. And now if he does go c5, we'll simply put our pawn on c3. So if he goes c5, we'll go c3. Now if he tries to go for c4, we'll simply put our bishop back on c2. And if he captures on d4, then we can capture with this knight that we just put here. So I think knight here was also was very good. Another idea with knight to e2 is that in the future he wants to castle kingside. So this knight can easily come to g3 and to h5 in some moves. Now this is very important. He played f5, locking our bishop. So we don't want that. So we're going to play a move called en passant here, taking advantage of the fact that our pawn was here and he played 2 moves forward. So we can play this move called en passant, a French term. And he should recapture with the knight, and this is the move I'm expecting. And then from that moment, I'm just going to castle or play knight to g3. And I think I'm going to go with knight to g3 for the simple fact that I don't want this knight coming to e4. So now if he were to go there, we can simply win a pawn because we're preventing the knight from going there. And then we can continue with plans like knight to e5, castles, with a very comfortable game. I very much like our position. Just look at the black pieces. They are all in their original squares. And look at our pieces. Good development, good control of the center. We're ready to put our king to safety. We're ready to play the move pawn to c3, knight to e5. So this is obviously a very bad move. I understand the move. He's thinking, okay, check. He moves and I castle. But I'm going to play a move that I wanted to play anyway, c3. So not only is he giving us a free tempo, he's just improving the position of our pieces by giving us mindless checks. But then again, his name is Mindless Boy, so who knows? He's just playing in the style of his own name, I guess. It's okay. Bishop will go back to d6. I expected this move. And here we're going to continue with knight to e5. And taking for him will be a big mistake. So hopefully he doesn't decide to swap this bishop for this knight, because we simply take 9 moves, we castle our king, and notice that this rook is going to prevent his king from castling. So he should not take my knight right now. So he should pretty much just castle and wait. That's the best he can do in this at this moment. Just wait. But at the same time, waiting is not going to save him. Okay, so he goes for knight b to d7. And this is already a big mistake, since we're going to be able to win a pawn. And I honestly don't think there's anything that he can do after knight takes c6. So not only is our position better, now we're just up a pawn as well. So it doesn't look like our opponent is going to survive this game. Here, queen b6 is a very interesting move that he can play, since after I play knight to e5, he can castle and going for some tricks, because if I castle, He can then capture my knight, and after pawn takes, he can take the pawn, taking advantage of the pin, since my king is going to be on the g1 square. He's too many moves ahead, so I don't want to draw any arrows and confuse anybody. But all right, he does go for queen to b6, as if he was listening to me. I should probably be careful, because if he is listening, we're giving him all of the ideas. But he's not, I promise, he is not. So, okay, we had to move our knight back since he was threatening to take it. Now the question is, if he going to castle and hope for me to fall for that trick, or is he just going to directly take my knight and remove it from the board at the moment? But anyway, if he castles, I'm just going to play queen to e2, followed by bishop to e3, and then castle kingside. So those are my next 3 moves. They might not be the best moves, but it's always better in chess to have a plan than to have no plan at all. So even if the plan is bad, always keep that in mind. And you'll be able to save time on your clock as well if you know exactly what your next few moves are. And in this case, I have 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, following even by bringing this rook to the center. That's 4 moves that I have already planned, and I don't need to think much about them. Since, as you can see, any trades here are going to be good for me. So I don't need to really concentrate on analyzing this. If he takes on e5, we simply take with our f pawn, and we'll have control, super control the center. Just check out the pawn chain that we're going to have. He's going to have a backward e6 pawn, and don't forget that we're already up a pawn, so our position is going to be even stronger. Okay, so here our opponent wants to eliminate this pawn chain that we have been discussing, which is very smart of him, I guess. I support the move. It's a very good move, so I'm just going to play here now. Not worrying about if he takes on c3, which we're going to just take. And if he decides to go queen a5, then we'll bring our bishop back to d2, since we don't want to allow him to capture our pawn here. So it's looking great, this game. The only uncomfortable thing, I guess, will be that we are under 3 minutes. So we need to keep an eye on the clock, not to waste any precious time. But our opponent is also down to under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's coming down to the wire. What I prefer, if it's going to come down to the wire, I prefer to be up material. So this is a very weird move, g5. Moving the pawns in front of your king is usually not a good idea, especially when all my pieces are threatening to go to that side of the board anyway. So any capture here on e5 now is going to lead to a win of a piece. So my opponent is in a lot of danger. Although he has some very interesting queen to a5 at the end, which maybe I overlooked a bit. But either way, g5 is a big mistake. And I'm pretty sure once we go back to the evaluation of this game and the analysis, the computer is going to agree with my assessment that g5 was just a blunder. It's not even an inaccurate move, it has to be a blunder. All right, so let's see. I'm going to hit this button here, just in case by mistake we hit the resign and we lose the game. That would be very tragic. Okay, so that's a free knight. There's no reason to think. Let's just take it off the board. If he takes now with the rook, which he didn't, and I thought it was his best attempt, but now that our king is no longer stuck in the center and has found safety and shelter in behind my pawns, this is only a matter of conversion at this moment. So we're gonna go for bishop to h6 next, which would win us the exchange, since this rook cannot stay here on these two squares. He can go after bishop h6, bishop takes knight, but that's not going to work for him either. Okay, so our opponent is offering some trades, and I don't see why we shouldn't take it. And I don't see why we shouldn't go for this maneuver, since we're just simply winning the rook. Bishop takes, we simply got knight, queen takes. And we're attacking here with two pieces, and our opponent's only protecting with one, and he needs to also worry about that piece that we're attacking with our bishop. So, okay, we have a resignation from our opponent. Very logical at that point of the game. Actually, we won on time. It wasn't a resignation. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the game report and try to learn something from this 22-move game. Let's see how accurate we played. I believe we were pretty accurate. I'm expecting something above 90% accuracy. Wow. This is a big shock. 68% accuracy. I am very intrigued. So the three main lessons that, and this is an awesome thing that chess.com has, a very interesting, very awesome way of learning. It tells you the components of this game where you could learn things from: isolated pawns, backward pawns, and castling. So it's very useful tool, and I think you can hit those links and you can see a video about those specific ideas in chess. Okay, but let's just move here to the analysis. I'm very intrigued to see where we could have improved. So far this is normal stuff, and it is saying that, yeah, I didn't think c6 was a good move, but it's saying that f4 was not a good move for us either. That we should have gone for the pawn push first, and then maybe go for f4. But okay, I don't think we spoiled too much by playing f4. Opponent played b5, which surprisingly the computer says is a good move. Bishop to d3 and a6. And the reason I didn't like a6 was because of what I mentioned in the game of locking his bishop now behind the pawn chain. So notice how this bishop, for him to be able to develop that bishop would be very difficult. But okay, so after a6, we simply just develop our pieces. That's the best move. d5, and here e5. And at this point, I was very comfortable and very happy here. So yeah, so 92, saying it's a good move, but not the best, is saying I should just take advantage that I have a lead in development and go for the direct f5 and trying to open the game a little bit. But okay, he played f5 himself. And notice that the computer is saying that the best move was the plan I was going for with c5, which makes a lot of sense. So here we took on f6, and it's saying that we should not remove our pawn from there, that we should instead sacrifice a pawn with g4. And I wouldn't have seen this move, not in a 10-minute game. I know of this idea, but in a 10-minute game with my king stuck in the center, I don't think I would have played that move. Okay, so he takes f6, knight takes f6. Excuse me. So knight to g3. And the reason for this move was I wanted to prevent the knight from coming to e4. But it's saying it's an excellent move, but not the best move. It's saying c3 was the best move, but I think it's about the same. So bishop to b4, c3, bishop to d6, and knight to e5. It's saying bishop to e3 was better, but okay. I don't think it's too big of a deal. Okay, so at this point, we won the pawn. So I'm just gonna play some quick moves to see. Okay, so yeah, so remember I was saying that this move g5 was a blunder, and the computer agrees. It's what practically threw away all of the game for black. Black was losing, but now it's just it's game over. And that's another mistake in chess. If you make back-to-back mistakes, the game is usually going to finish pretty quickly. So after we took castle, bishop to a6, and yeah, after this, he ran out of time. But as you can see, we have a plus 17 advantage. So the conversion shouldn't be too difficult. All right, I want to thank everybody for watching this part 1 of the road to 2000 in rapid chess, in which we're going to just play 10-minute games until we get there. And so far, we're making great progress. We're at 727. And as always, have fun, stay safe, and always respect your opponents. See you next time.